The soft hum of the habitat's life support system was Elara's lullaby, a constant gentle thrum beneath the surface of everything. Tonight, it felt particularly soothing, a counterpoint to the vibrant swirling patterns that danced across her chamber walls. These weren't projections, not exactly. They were the Stardust SL, and they were her favorite part of every lunar prime night. Elara, all 7 years of her, was perched on the edge of her gravnal bed, toes just barely touching the cool, smooth synth carpet. Her evening biorejuvenation shower had left her skin tingling and her short dark hair damp, clinging in soft curls around her ears. She wore her favorite sleep suit, patterned with tiny, luminescent constellations that glowed faintly even before the Stardust SL fully activated. Outside her panoramic viewport, the colossal, blue-green marble of Earth hung suspended in the velvet blackness, a breathtaking sight she saw every single night but never tired of. It was always there, a silent guardian, rotating majestically, its cloud swirls and ocean depths, visible with incredible clarity. Around it, a scattering of smaller lights, the orbital platforms, the deep space probes, the comm satellites, looked like tiny industrious fireflies. And beyond them, stretching infinitely, lay the true magic, the unblinking diamond dust of a billion stars. "Almost time, little stargazer," her mother, Lyra, said, her voice a warm melody from the comm panel beside the door. Lyra's face, etched with soft lines of weariness from a long shift in the hydroponics bay, but alight with love, smiled down at her. "Have you brushed your teeth, Gil?" Elara nodded emphatically, a small, proud bounce. "And polished my star chart, Mama. Look." She gestured to the interactive star chart floating near her bedside, its holographic constellations shimmering with a lifelike glow. Today, she'd meticulously traced the path of the Yeep Peregrine, her mother's old research vessel, across the Orion Arm. Lyra chuckled. "A truly dedicated navigator. Good, the Stardust SL is about to reach peak luminescence, ready to drift?" Elara sighed contentedly. "Ready, Mama." The Stardust SL was Lunar Prime's unique answer to the often harsh direct light of the lunar sun, and the deep encompassing darkness of its nights. It wasn't a lamp, nor a simple light panel. It was a complex living light, cultivated from bioluminescent algae samples brought back from the deepest, most light-starved oceans of an exoplanet nearly a century ago. These algae, meticulously nurtured and enhanced, pulsed with a gentle shifting light when exposed to specific, low-frequency sonic waves that permeated the habitat at night. Each child's chamber had its own unique activation pattern, creating a bespoke light show that swirled and flowed, mimicking the nebulous glow of distant star-forming regions. For Elara, the Stardust SL was less a light source and more a friend, a silent, colorful companion that filled her room with warmth and wonder. As Lyra's voice faded from the comm panel, a new series of tones began to resonate through the chamber. Soft, deep notes that vibrated through the floor and up into Elara's bones. The patterns on her walls, which had been a gentle wash of aquamarine and lavender, began to deepen, swirling into richer hues of sapphire and amethyst. Tiny, glittering motes, like microscopic dust specks caught in a cosmic breeze, danced within the larger patterns. It felt as if the very essence of a distant nebula had decided to make her room its temporary home. Elara lay back on her gravnal bed, letting the subtle anti-gravity lift her just a centimeter or two off the mattress. It was like floating on a cloud, a trick of physics that never ceased to delight her. She pulled her favorite sleep comforter, woven with shimmering threads that mimicked the Milky Way, up to her chin. The Stardust SL intensified, painting her ceiling with a slow, majestic spiral of emerald and gold, then shifting to a cascade of rose and violet. "It's like being inside a giant star jelly," Elara whispered to herself, a common thought she had. The star jelly was a creature from her favorite story cycle, a gentle colossal being that drifted through nebulae, absorbing starlight and singing songs of the cosmos. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the colors play behind her eyelids. When she opened them again, she looked out the viewport. Earth was still there, a constant, reassuring presence. But tonight, her gaze drifted past it, past the moon's stark, cratered surface, and out into the inky blackness. Her mother, Lyra. Not just the scientific facts, Elara knew those, thanks to her education suite and her mother's patient explanations, but the myths, the hopes, the dreams that humanity had woven around them for millennia. Lyra had been an astrobotanist, studying strange alien flora on newly discovered exoplanets before Ilara was born. Her stories weren't just about distant suns, but about the unique ecosystems, the shimmering forests, the bioluminescent creatures that lived under alien skies. "Mama," Ilara murmured into her comlink, a direct thought-to-text connection with her mother's wrist pad. "Will I ever see the twin moons of Xylos Prime? The ones with the purple trees?" A moment later, Lyra's voice, a little softer now, came through Ilara's pillow speaker. "Perhaps, my little adventurer. The Artemis expedition is still gathering data from Xylos Prime. It's a long way off, but there are so many wonders right here, and so many more closer by." "But the purple trees," Ilara insisted, her imagination already painting vivid images. "You said they glowed at night, like the Stardust does, but even brighter. And the ground was soft, like moss, but it hummed." Lyra chuckled softly. "Yes, they do. The Ilosian flora uses a unique form of bioluminescence, fueled by the planet's high atmospheric argon content. And the moss, it's a symbiotic mycelial network that pulses with low-frequency sonic waves. They discovered it, helps the trees grow." Ilara's eyes widened. "Like the waves that make the Stardust cell glow." "Exactly like that," Lyra confirmed. "The universe, Ilara, is full of interconnected wonders. We learn from one place and it helps us understand another. The Stardust SL, in a way, is a tiny piece of Xylos Prime brought here to keep you company." Ilara traced a shimmering pattern on her ceiling with her finger. To think, this gentle, comforting light was connected to a faraway world of purple, humming trees. It made the distance feel a little less vast, a little more conquerable. "When you were on the EP Peregrine," Ilara asked, her voice hushed, "did you ever get scared, so far from Earth?" Lyra paused, and Ilara could almost hear her mother smiling. "Sometimes. The void can be a little overwhelming when you're out in the deep black. But then you remember why you're there. You remember the mission, the beauty of discovery, the thrill of seeing something no human has ever laid eyes on before. And you remember the people waiting for you back home. That makes the fear shrink, and the wonder grow." Ilara thought about that. She imagined herself on the bridge of a sleek interstellar cruiser, a new AP Peregrine, perhaps, or maybe a ship named the Stardust Dreamer. She would be looking out at a new nebula, one nobody had ever mapped before. She would be charting new stars, discovering planets with oceans of liquid light, or mountains that sang. "I want to be a first contact specialist," Ilara declared, a sudden firm resolution in her voice. "I want to meet the people who live under the purple trees, or the ones who built the crystal cities on Kepler 186f, the ones we only see with long-range probes." Lyra's response was immediate, and filled with pride. "You will be, my love, or an astrobotanist, like your mama, or a xenolinguist, or an astrophysicist, or anything your curious heart desires. The universe is waiting for you to write your own story amongst its stars." The Stardust SL swirled around Ilara's room, its colors deepening into a rich, velvety indigo, studded with tiny, pulsating points of silver light. It was the deepest part of the night cycle, when the light was at its most profound and most calming. The sonic wave shifted again, becoming even lower, almost imperceptible, a vibration that resonated deep in her chest. Ilara felt her eyelids growing heavy. The Gravnal bed was doing its job, making her feel weightless, suspended in a pocket of pure comfort. She watched the slow dance of the Stardust SL, each new pattern more intricate than the last. Sometimes she imagined the patterns were actual starships, soaring through nebulae. Other times they were the swirling currents of a gas giant, or the gentle undulations of a distant, alien ocean. She remembered her mother's words, "The universe is full of interconnected wonders." The Stardust SL, a piece of Xylos Prime, brought to Luna Prime for her. It was a tangible link, a bridge across the immense distances. It made the idea of traveling to those far-off places seem not just like a dream, but a destiny. Mama, Elara murmured again, her voice thick with drowsiness. When I go to Silos Prime, I'll bring back a piece of a purple tree for you, so you can have your own Stardust ale, just for you. Lyra's laugh was soft and warm, a gentle farewell. That would be the greatest gift, my little starflower. But for now, just dream of those purple trees, and dream of all the wonders that await you. The Stardust SL began its slow, gradual fade, the brilliant blues and purples softening into a gentle, silvery glow. The tiny points of light continued to twinkle, like the last visible stars before dawn. Elara snuggled deeper into her comforter, her mind already drifting, charting courses through the emerald nebulae and sapphire oceans of her imagination. She closed her eyes, and the final lingering shimmer of the Stardust SL painted the inside of her eyelids with a comforting star-spun darkness. The hum of the habitat, the gentle lift of the Gravnal bed, and the echoes of her mother's stories wrapped around her like a warm embrace. Tomorrow, there would be school, and lessons about orbital mechanics and the history of lunar colonization. But tonight, there was only the Stardust S and the boundless waiting universe. Elara slept, dreaming of purple trees and ships named Stardust Dreamer, their hulls glinting with the promise of discovery, guided by a compass made of hope, and the very essence of starlight. The adventure, she knew, was only just beginning. The adventure, she knew, was only just beginning. A soft chime, like the distant echo of a crystal bell, stirred Elara from her slumber. The dream, though fading, left behind a lingering scent of something sweet and earthy, like rain on alien leaves. She stretched, her small body unfolding beneath a feather-light bioluminescent quilt that pulsed with the gentle rhythm of her sleep cycle. Her room, a cozy sphere carved into the lunar bedrock, was designed to mimic the comforting embrace of a terrestrial forest, with walls that glowed a soft, dappled green, filtering light as if through a canopy. It was a clever illusion, engineered to combat the stark, grey reality of the moon outside. Time to rise, little star. A warm, familiar voice drifted from the wall panel beside her bed. It was her mother, Lyra, her voice always carrying a melodic hum, even through the speaker. Elara blinked, pushing the last wisps of purple trees and starlight ships from her mind. "Coming, Mama," she mumbled, her voice still thick with sleep. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, her feet landing on the temperature-regulated synth rug that felt like moss underfoot. As she stood, her sleepwear, a comfortable seamless tunic, gently adjusted its fit, using microfibers to wick away the last remnants of sleep-induced warmth and prepare her for the day. She padded into the small circular living area, where the central holotable already shimmered with a breakfast display. A bowl of nutrient-rich sun oats, swirled with synthetic berries, and a mug of steaming moon milk awaited her. Her mother was already there, her fingers dancing across a transparent data slate, monitoring the atmospheric processes for their section of the colony. Lyra had a wild tangle of dark curls, much like Elara's, and eyes that held the same deep, starry gaze. Today, she wore a simple, functional jumpsuit, its fabric subtly shifting color with her movements. "Sleep well, my little dreamer?" Lyra asked, her smile warm as Elara settled into her seat. Elara nodded, spooning a mouthful of sun oats. "I dreamed of purple trees again, Mama, and a ship called the Stardust Dreamer." Lyra's smile softened, a wistful quality entering her eyes. "Ah, the Stardust Dreamer," she murmured, her gaze drifting to the large reinforced viewport that dominated one wall. Beyond it lay the stark, cratered landscape of Luna, illuminated by the distant pale blue marble of Earth. Further still, the Milky Way sprawled, a ribbon of diamond dust against velvet black. A good name for a ship, wouldn't you say? One that promises to carry you to the edges of what we know and beyond. "It was beautiful," Elara said, a spark igniting in her chest. Its hull shimmered, like it was made of captured starlight. Lyra chuckled, a sound like wind chimes. Perhaps it was. Some of the oldest ships, the true pioneers, were said to be imbued with a little bit of cosmic magic. Or perhaps it was simply the advanced alloys of their time, reflecting the nebulae they passed through. She paused, turning her full attention to Elara. "But enough dreaming for now, my love. Today, we delve into the practical magic. Elara groaned playfully. Do we have to? It's all vectors and gravitational pulls. I wish we could just feel the orbits. Ah, but you do, little one, Lyra said, tapping her finger gently on Elara's forehead. Every time you look up at Earth, every time you think of the way our colony stays tethered to Luna, you're feeling it. Orbital mechanics is the symphony that keeps the universe from crashing into itself, and understanding it is the first step to truly dancing among the stars. After breakfast, Elara quickly changed into her school uniform, a practical, self-cleaning tunic and trousers designed for comfort and durability within the colony's controlled environment. She grabbed her data slate, its surface glowing with her day's schedule, and kissed her mother goodbye. "Be safe, my star," Lyra said, giving her a quick hug. "And remember, even the most complex equations begin with a single spark of curiosity." Elara stepped out of their habitat and into the bustling main concourse of Sector Gamma. The lunar colony wasn't a single city, but a series of interconnected, subterranean domes and tunnels, each protected by thick regolith and energy shields. Sector Gamma was primarily residential and educational. The concourse hummed with the quiet murmur of hundreds of lives, the soft whir of automated sanitation bots, and the distant clang of construction in a new agricultural dome. People moved swiftly along holographic pathways that glowed on the floor, indicating optimal routes to various destinations. Elara hopped onto a passing maglev platform, which whisked her silently through transparent tunnels. Outside, she could glimpse the vast excavated caverns that housed the colony's infrastructure. Colossal hydroponic farms glowing with artificial sunlight, massive water recycling plants, and the intricate web of power conduits. Occasionally, a glimpse of the unyielding lunar surface, seen through a shielded viewing port, reminded her of the delicate balance that sustained their lives. Her school, the Tycho Academy for Orbital and Astrometric Sciences, was housed in a sprawling, multi-level dome. Its entrance was a grand archway flanked by holographic projections of famous spacecraft, including the Apollo 11 Eagle and the Lee Star Seeker Voyager, a legendary deep space exploration vessel. Inside, the air hummed with intellectual energy. Students ranging from her age, 10 cycles, to young adults, bustled between classrooms, their data slates clutched in hand. Elara's first class was Introductory Astrogation and Orbital Mechanics, taught by an AI avatar named Professor Cygnus. Professor Cygnus appeared as a shimmering, nebula-like form, his voice a soothing baritone that could explain the most complex concepts with effortless clarity. Today's lesson was on Lagrange points, those gravitational sweet spots in space where objects could maintain a stable position relative to two larger bodies. Imagine, young explorers, Professor Cygnus began, his form swirling with iridescent colors, that you are sailing a cosmic ocean. Lagrange points are like natural harbors, places where you can drop anchor and rest, or launch your next voyage with minimal energy expenditure. The classroom was unlike any Elara's ancestors might have known. Each student sat at an Omni desk, a personal interactive surface that projected holographic models and real-time simulations. Elara, with a flick of her wrist, pulled up a detailed simulation of the Earth-Moon system. She could manipulate the gravitational forces, launch virtual probes, and watch as they drifted into the stable orbits of the lone L2, L3, L4, and L5 points. Now, Professor Cygnus continued, for your practical application, design a stable, fuel-efficient orbital path for a supply vessel traveling from the lunar colony to a proposed deep space habitat at Earth-Moon L2. Consider both cargo capacity and journey time. Elara's fingers flew across her Omni desk. She loved these challenges. It wasn't just about numbers, it was about imagining herself out there, guiding a ship through the silent void. She experimented with different trajectories, adjusting thrust vectors, factoring in the subtle nudges of solar wind. She even added a small whimsical detail to her simulation, a tiny, purple-leafed plant icon representing a future biodome on the L2 habitat. Beside her, a boy named Kale grumbled. Kale was brilliant, but often preferred the thrill of high-speed space racing simulations to the meticulous planning of cargo runs. "Min just keeps spiraling into the moon," he sighed, exasperated. Or slingshotting past Earth. How do you make it ice stay? Elara leaned over, pointing to a subtle adjustment on his trajectory. You're overcorrecting for the moon's pull. Think of it like a gentle nudge, not a hard push. And remember the orbital velocity for L2. It's not about getting there fast, it's about staying there. With Elara's advice, Kale's simulated vessel finally settled into a stable, fuel-efficient orbit around L2. Wow, thanks Elara. You're like a human orbital computer. Elara grinned, a flush of pride warming her cheeks. It's just about understanding the dance, she said. The rest of the school day passed in a blur of equally engaging lessons. In exobotany and terraforming principles, they learned about genetically engineered flora designed to thrive in alien environments, and Elara found herself sketching variations of purple trees in her notes, wondering if they could truly exist. In cosmic history, they explored the first human footsteps on Mars and the ambitious decades-long project to establish a permanent presence on Europa. Each lesson deepened her sense of wonder and fueled her desire to explore. As the school day concluded, a new project was announced, the annual Young Explorers Fair. This year, Professor Cygnus announced, we challenge you to conceptualize a groundbreaking mission. It could be a new method of interstellar travel, a deep space resource extraction technique, or even the design for a first contact protocol with an as-yet undiscovered alien civilization. Let your imaginations soar. The announcement buzzed through the classroom. Elara's mind immediately went to the Stardust dreamer. A mission. A ship. But what kind of mission? And where would it go? Walking back along the maglev platform, Elara found her data slate buzzing with ideas. She started sketching ship designs, not just for the fair, but for herself. She imagined a sleek, elegant vessel, designed for long-duration deep space travel, its engines humming with a new undiscovered energy source. What if her mother's stories weren't just stories? What if the Stardust dreamer was more than just a dream? When she arrived home, the familiar aroma of her mother's freshly brewed synth chai filled the air. Lyra was at the holotable, sorting through a pile of what looked like ancient data chips and weathered star charts. These were items Elara rarely saw, relics from a time before digital ubiquity. How was school, little star? Lyra asked, looking up with a smile. Amazing. We have a new project, the Young Explorers Fair. We have to design a groundbreaking mission. Elara's eyes sparkled. Mama, what if the Stardust dreamer was real? What kind of mission would it be on? Lyra paused, her fingers lingering over a particularly aged data chip. Her smile softened, but a flicker of something else, perhaps nostalgia, perhaps a touch of melancholy, crossed her features. The Stardust dreamer, she repeated, her voice a little distant. That, Elara, was a ship built for a very special purpose, a purpose that was perhaps ahead of its time. Elara's curiosity surged. What purpose? Was it for finding new planets, or exploring nebulae? Lyra picked up the old data chip, turning it over in her fingers. It was smooth and cool to the touch, unlike any modern chip Elara had ever seen. Its casing was a dull, polished metal, etched with faint, elegant symbols that Elara didn't recognize. It was meant to find something unique, something beautiful, something that many believed existed only in legends. Like what? Elara pressed, leaning closer. The bedtime stories always ended with wonder, but never this tangible, this close to reality. Lyra looked at the chip, then at Elara, a thoughtful expression on her face. It was meant to find the chromatic nebula, a place where starlight isn't just white or blue, but bursts forth in every color imaginable. And within it, they believed grew the athel trees, trees whose leaves glowed with all the colors of the cosmos, whose sap held the very essence of starlight. Elara gasped. Purple trees, she whispered, remembering her dream. Like in my dream. Lyra's eyes widened slightly, a surprised but pleased look on her face. Purple trees indeed. The legends say their bark was like polished obsidian, their leaves shimmering with every hue. And the Stardust dreamer was going to find them? Elara asked, her heart pounding with excitement. This was more than just a school project, this felt like a real quest. Lyra nodded slowly. It was, or at least, That was the hope. My family, we were part of the initial research team. We poured years into trying to chart a course, to find a verifiable energy signature, a gravitational anomaly that might lead us there. But the chromatic nebula was elusive. The project was eventually shelved, deemed too ambitious, too expensive, too fantastical for the resources of the time. She sighed, a soft, resigned sound. Most of the records were archived, some even lost. The Stardust Dreamer itself never launched. Its prototype was disassembled. Elara's shoulders drooped slightly. So it was just a dream then, a story. Not entirely, Lyra said, her gaze returning to the old data chip. This is a fragment, a very old one. It contains some of the original star charts, the theoretical jump points, and the early energy signature data from the Chromatic Nebula project. It was my grandfather's. He believed right to the end that the Chromatic Nebula was real, and that one day, someone would find it. Oh. She handed the chip to Elara. It felt surprisingly heavy in her hand, cool and ancient. The etched symbol seemed to pulse with a faint inner light, though that might have just been Elara's imagination. He used to say that hope was the strongest navigation system, and curiosity the most powerful engine. Elara clutched the chip, her mind racing. The Chromatic Nebula. Ethel Trees. The Stardust Dreamer, duh. Her school project suddenly had a direction, a purpose far grander than she could have imagined. What if she could pick up where her great-grandfather left off? What if she could use her knowledge of orbital mechanics, her dreams, and this tiny, ancient chip to breathe life back into their Stardust Dreamer project? A new kind of excitement, deeper and more profound than just schoolwork, bloomed in her chest. It was the thrill of a puzzle waiting to be solved, a mystery stretching across light years. The adventure, she knew, was truly only just beginning. With the old data chip warm in her hand, Elara knew she had found her mission. She just needed to figure out how to launch it. The immediate problem wasn't the launch itself, but how to even access the information on the ancient data chip. Her personal datapad, sleek and intuitive, merely blinked an error message when she tried to interface it. Unknown protocol. Data structure unreadable. It was like trying to speak a language that had vanished from common memory, leaving behind only echoes. Elara's room transformed from a sanctuary of starlight projections into a makeshift laboratory. Dust motes danced in the beams of her bedside lamp, as she pulled out forgotten boxes from under her bed. Old school projects, defunct robotic kits, even a vintage holographic projector her father had rescued from a junk sale years ago. She remembered him saying, "Never throw out old tech, Elara. You never know when a piece of history might hold a key to the future." Those words resonated now. She started systematically. The chip was small, no bigger than her thumb, its surface a dull, oxidized silver. It felt cool and smooth against her fingertips, a quiet promise. She tried every port, every adapter, every archaic connector she possessed. Nothing. Frustration, a hot, prickly sensation, began to mingle with her excitement. Was this mission doomed before it even began? Then, she remembered the dusty server in the attic. Not a server really, but an antique data storage unit her parents used for old family photos and historical documents, a relic from an era before ubiquitous cloud storage. It was clunky, humming softly with the ghosts of forgotten data, and its interface was a relic in itself. She'd seen her father occasionally connect a strange, multi-pronged cable to it. Carefully, Elara carried the chip upstairs. The attic was warm, smelling of old paper and ozone. The server, a grey monolith, sat in a corner, its indicator lights blinking a steady, comforting green. She found the cable, a tangle of wires with an array of different connectors, and plugged it into one of the server's auxiliary ports. Then, with a breath held tight in her chest, she chose the smallest, most unusual port on the cable, the one that looked the most ancient, and gently, oh so gently, pressed the Stardust Dreamer chip into place. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the server. The green lights flickered, turning amber, then a brilliant, pulsing azure. On the server's built-in, monochrome screen, lines of code, unfamiliar and complex, began to scroll. Elara leaned closer, her heart thrumming. Then, A single word materialized, glowing faintly. Aura. Protocol initialized. 1. Below it, a simple question. Accessing Stardust Dreamer project. Yinen. Elara didn't hesitate. "Aye," she whispered, her finger hovering over the virtual button. The screen dissolved into a swirl of soft blue light, then reformed into a minimalist interface. A stylized galaxy, shimmering with nebulous clouds and pinprick stars, filled the background. In the foreground, text began to appear, not scrolling, but unfolding, as if being dictated by an unseen presence. "Welcome, Inheritor," the text read. "You have awakened Aura, the core informational interface of the Stardust Dreamer project. My primary function is to preserve and transmit knowledge. It has been 217 years, 4 months, 12 days since last activation." Elara gasped, a silent, joyful sound. 2 centuries! The chip wasn't just data. It was a dormant intelligence, a digital guardian of a lost dream. Who are you?" she typed, her fingers trembling slightly. "I am Aura," the interface replied, the words appearing with a gentle cascade effect. "I am the collective knowledge base, the operational guide, and the memory archive for the Stardust Dreamer. I was designed to assist the project's lead scientists and eventually, its crew." Elara felt an electric thrill. This wasn't just a chip, it was a companion, a teacher from the past. What was the Stardust Dreamer project? Aura responded with a breathtaking holographic projection that shimmered into existence above the old server. A ship, unlike anything Elara had ever seen, slowly rotated. It wasn't a sleek, aerodynamic dart, but a colossal, intricate structure, like a crystalline flower unfolding in the vacuum. Petal-like solar sails unfurled from a central core, catching the light of a simulated star. Its hull glowed with an internal luminescence, hinting at vast, intricate systems within. The Stardust Dreamer, Aura's text explained, was humanity's most ambitious endeavor. Its purpose, to journey to Kepler 186f, an exoplanet located approximately 500 light-years from Earth, within the habitable zone of its red dwarf star. We theorized it to be a viable candidate for a second Earth, a potential new home for humanity, or at the very least, a repository for our genetic and cultural heritage. Elara stared, mesmerized. Kepler 186f. She knew that name from her advanced astrographics class, a theoretical planet long since dismissed as too distant, too dim, too risky for even long-term probes. The project was even grander, more audacious than she could have imagined. "Why did it fail?" she typed, a pang of sadness in her chest. Aura's projection wavered slightly, as if sharing her sorrow. The project encountered multiple challenges. Initial funding was immense, but political will waned. Technological hurdles, particularly regarding sustained faster-than-light (FTL) travel and long-term cryosleep, proved more complex than anticipated. A catastrophic solar flare event, unexpected in its intensity, damaged critical infrastructure during the final stages of construction, leading to significant delays and cost overruns. Ultimately, humanity chose to focus. Elara felt a profound connection to the people who had poured their lives into this dream. They hadn't just built a ship, they had built a hope. And now, she was holding the key to that hope. Can it be revived? The original vessel, no, Aura replied. Its components were disassembled. However, the theoretical framework, the navigational charts, the propulsion schematics, the cryosleep protocols, and the scientific objectives remain intact within my core. They are a foundation, awaiting a new architect. A new architect. Elara felt the weight of those words, a thrilling, terrifying responsibility. She was only 11, but her mind was already soaring through the stars. Aura, with its vast knowledge, was like having a personal tutor from the future, or rather, from a forgotten past. Over the next few weeks, Elara's life transformed. Her room, once a tidy space, became a whirlwind of data projections, holographic schematics, and repurposed tech. Her parents, busy with their own work, noticed her intense focus but attributed it to a new school project or a particularly engaging game. They were used to Elara's deep dives into complex subjects. Aura became her constant companion, its presence confined to the old server in the attic, but accessible through a secured local network Elara painstakingly created. She spent hours absorbing information. She learned about the Aether Drive, the Stardust Dreamer's revolutionary propulsion system that was meant to bend spacetime without ripping it, allowing for near-light-speed travel. She delved into the intricacies of chronosleep pods, designed to suspend biological functions for centuries. She studied the complex algorithms for terraforming, for creating a breathable atmosphere and fertile soil on an alien world. Her schoolwork, already advanced, became a stepping stone. While her classmates learned basic calculus, Elara was grappling with tensor fields and quantum mechanics, her datapads subtly translating Aura's complex data into digestible chunks, then pushing her to solve problems that would stump university students. Her grades, surprisingly, remained excellent. The foundational knowledge she was building for the Stardust Dreamer project made her regular classes seem almost too simple. She started with simulations. Aura provided a sophisticated holographic simulator, projecting a miniature Stardust Dreamer into her room. Elara could manipulate its components, test different fuel types, run flight paths through asteroid fields, and even simulate the atmospheric entry onto Kepler 186 FL. She watched in awe as her tiny projected ship, guided by her commands, gracefully navigated cosmic hazards. The primary challenge, Aura explained one evening, its text glowing a soft blue in the dark of Elara's room, was the energy generation for the Aether Drive. The initial design required a stable, contained singularity, a miniature black hole, which proved exceptionally difficult and dangerous to control. Elara frowned, staring at the holographic projection of the drive core. A miniature black hole. That sounded impossible for a practical long-term space mission. No wonder the project was shelved. Was there another approach? She typed, a spark of an idea igniting in her mind. Yes, Aura replied. During the project's final phases, a theoretical alternative was proposed. A zero-point energy accumulator. It would harvest energy from the quantum fluctuations of space-time itself. However, the technology to build such a device was deemed centuries beyond our reach. Centuries beyond our reach. Elara smiled. Perhaps not anymore. Her own era had made incredible strides in quantum entanglement and energy harvesting. What if she could bridge that gap? Her focus narrowed. She couldn't rebuild the whole Stardust Dreamer, not yet. But she could start with a single component. The zero-point energy accumulator. It was the heart of the dream, the engine that would make interstellar travel possible without the dangers of a singularity. Her first prototype was humble, built in secret from repurposed parts. She dismantled an old atmospheric drone her father had gifted her. Its miniature fusion cell and advanced grav stabilizers were perfect. She scavenged old power conduits from a defunct robotic vacuum and ordered specialized quantum resonant wiring from an online hobbyist store, claiming it was for a school science fair project. Her 3D printer, usually reserved for action figures, hummed late into the night, fabricating intricate superconducting coils and quantum lattice resonators based on Aura's ancient schematics, modified by Elara's modern understanding. The challenge was immense. Aura could provide the blueprints, but translating them into physical reality required ingenuity, patience, and a willingness to fail. Her desktop was littered with failed attempts, burnt-out circuits, fizzling power cells, and miniature coils that refused to resonate at the correct frequency. Each failure, though disheartening, taught her something new, revealed a subtle flaw in her understanding or her fabrication. Aura, ever patient, would gently point her towards the relevant section of the archived data, or suggest a new approach. Remember, Elara, Aura's text would appear. The pioneers of any great endeavor faced countless setbacks. It is in the overcoming of these challenges that true innovation is born. One afternoon, after months of relentless work, Elara sat hunched over her workbench. Spread before her was the latest iteration of her accumulator. It was a complex array of interwoven superconducting loops, a tiny glowing crystalline core, and a delicate network of quantum resonant wiring, all housed within a palm-sized, transparent casing she'd printed herself. It hummed faintly, a sound only she could hear, a vibration that resonated deep in her bones. She connected it to a small, isolated power cell, a precaution against accidentally overloading her entire house grid. Then she activated the diagnostic sequence Aura had helped her design. A soft ethereal blue light pulsed from the crystalline core. The superconducting loops began to glow, a vibrant, almost liquid silver. On her datapad, the energy readings climbed steadily. Not just drawing power from the cell, but generating it. The input power remained constant, but the output reading, it was increasing. Not by much, not yet. Just a tiny fraction, a whispered promise. But it was there. More energy was being created than consumed. Elara gasped, her eyes wide. Her heart pounded, a drum solo in her chest. She had done it. She had built a working miniature zero-point energy accumulator. Success. Aura's text materialized on her datapad, accompanied by a subtle, almost musical chime. Efficiency rating, 0.00. It was tiny, barely enough to power a single Elantor an hour, but it was proof. Proof that the Stardust Dreamer's most ambitious technological hurdle could be overcome. Elara stared at the glowing device, a miniature star in her hand. The thrill of discovery coursed through her, deeper and more profound than any virtual reality game or academic achievement. This was real. This was the first step. The path ahead was still immense. Scaling this tiny prototype to power a starship would require years, perhaps decades of further research and development. It would demand resources far beyond what she could scavenge from old drones or order online. But looking at the faint blue glow, Elara knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was no longer just a girl with a dream. She was building it, piece by shining piece. The silent ancient promise of the Stardust Dreamer was beginning to awaken, not in a massive shipyard, but in a small room, powered by the boundless curiosity and unwavering determination of a single child. The cosmos waited, and Elara, armed with her knowledge, her chip, and her growing collection of humming, glowing prototypes, was ready to answer its call. The adventure, she knew, was only just beginning. The real launch, the one that would carry humanity's hopes beyond the stars, was still a distant horizon. But for the first time in centuries, that horizon felt within reach. She just needed to figure out how to build the rest of the ship. The first hurdle, Elara quickly realized, wasn't propulsion or navigation, but sheer scale. Her humming prototypes were delicate marvels, but a vessel capable of traversing the void demanded materials in quantities her small scavenged workshop couldn't possibly provide. She needed metal, alloys stronger than anything left rusting in the ruins of her world, and energy sources far beyond the solar panels she meticulously maintained. Her chip, a silent, glowing oracle nestled against her temple, offered a solution. Forgotten archives. Not the digital kind corrupted and fragmented by the Great Silence, but vast, subterranean vaults where the ancients had stored physical schematics, material samples, and even dormant automated construction units. The coordinates it whispered were far, deep beneath the dust-choked ruins of what was once known as the Grand Industrial Complex. A sprawling, pre-collapse manufacturing hub, now a skeletal forest of collapsed towers and rusting hulks. It was a daunting journey. Elara spent weeks preparing. She outfitted her sturdy, solar-powered rover, a relic she'd painstakingly repaired, with extra batteries, survival gear, and tools. Her companion, a small, multi-limbed drone she'd christened Scout, whirred beside her, its optical sensors scanning for dangers. The world outside her secluded valley was a silent, empty canvas of forgotten roads and ghost cities, occasionally broken by the whisper of wind through broken glass, or the scuttling of some mutated desert creature. Fear was a cold knot in her stomach, but the image of the stars, bright and beckoning, always pushed it away. Days bled into weeks. She navigated by ancient satellite maps projected by her chip onto the rover's display, avoiding the known radiation zones and unstable structural collapses. The journey was a lonely meditation, punctuated by moments of breathtaking beauty. A sunset painting the ruined skyscrapers in hues of fire and ash, or the pristine silence of a night sky unmarred by light pollution. Finally, she arrived. The grand industrial complex was even more desolate than she'd imagined, a monument to a forgotten age of colossal ambition. The entry point her chip indicated was a collapsed section of a vast underground parking garage, partially covered by shifting sands. It took her 3 days of careful digging, using Scout to clear debris and her own strength to move larger chunks of concrete, to reveal a reinforced blast door, ancient and corroded, but undeniably intact. Her chip pulsed with recognition. It interfaced with the door's archaic control panel. A cascade of forgotten security protocols whirred into life. With a groan that echoed through the buried silence, the massive door slowly retracted, revealing a cavernous space beyond, plunged into absolute darkness. Elara hesitated, her heart thrumming. This was it. The true beginning. She activated Scout's powerful floodlights. The beam cut through the gloom, illuminating rows upon rows of dormant machinery, shrouded in centuries of dust. But it wasn't just machinery. There were towering racks of raw materials, ingots of exotic metals, spools of superconducting wires, crystalline structures humming with latent energy. And there, at the far end of the cavern, stood a colossal, disassembled gantry crane, its robotic arms poised as if awaiting a command. The chip hummed. Automated Construction Facility, Designation, Genesis Prime. Elara spent the next few months deep beneath the earth, a solitary architect in a titanic workshop. The Genesis Prime facility was a marvel, even in its dormant state. Her chip, acting as a master key, slowly roused its systems. Ancient power conduits hummed back to life, drawing geothermal energy from deep within the planet. Massive robotic arms, guided by her precise instructions, began to move, their jointed limbs articulating with surprising grace despite their age. Her first task was to reactivate the material synthesis units. These colossal machines, fed by the raw elements she found stockpiled or extracted from nearby geological veins, could forge alloys of incredible strength and purity, tailored precisely to the ship's specifications. The air filled with the low thrum of molecular reordering, the scent of ozone, and the occasional flash of brilliant light as new materials were born. The ship began not as a graceful vessel, but as a series of colossal, intricate components. Elara, her mind buzzing with the schematics her chip provided, directed the automated builders. She spent hours monitoring holographic projections, adjusting parameters, and supervising the fabrication of each structural beam, each energy conduit, each delicate sensor array. The work was demanding, often frustrating, but every success, every perfectly formed component, filled her with a profound sense of accomplishment. She lived in a small, prefabricated habitat unit within the facility, powered by its revived systems. Days and nights blurred into a continuous cycle of design, fabrication, and assembly. Her hands, once accustomed to delicate prototypes, now guided the movements of monstrous machines. She learned to speak the language of engineering, of structural integrity and energy flux, with an intuitive understanding that surpassed her years. As the first massive sections of the ship's hull began to take shape, rising from the cavern floor like alien monoliths, Elara knew she couldn't keep this a secret forever. The sheer scale of the construction was impossible to hide. The ground above occasionally vibrated with the deep thrum of the facility, and faint energy signatures, though carefully masked by the chip, might eventually be detected. One day, as she was overseeing the integration of a massive primary energy manifold, a distant alarm blared through the facility. It wasn't one of Genesis Prime's internal warnings, but an external sensor system she'd deployed months ago, a perimeter guard against the unknown. Someone was approaching. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her focus. She immediately shut down the most energy-intensive processes, plunging parts of the cavern into a dimmer light, the hum of the facility quieting to a barely perceptible whisper. She grabbed a small multi-tool she always carried and ordered Scout to activate stealth mode. Peering at a feed from her perimeter sensors, Elara saw them. A small group, perhaps a dozen individuals, moving cautiously through the ruins above. They wore patched, utilitarian clothing, and carried crude but functional firearms, scavenged relics of a bygone era. They looked like survivors, like the few isolated communities she'd heard whispers of, eking out an existence in the desolate wastes. They were getting closer to the hidden entrance. Her heart pounded. Would they be hostile? Would they try to take what she had built, or worse, destroy it out of fear or ignorance? She had to make a choice: hide and hope they passed by, or confront them. Her chip, ever the strategist, offered a new set of data: linguistic analysis, cultural profiles of known survivor groups, probabilities of aggression. The odds were against a peaceful encounter if she remained hidden, and they stumbled upon the massive construction. Direct, non-threatening contact, it suggested. Taking a deep breath, Elara made her decision. She activated a low-frequency beacon, a gentle pulse designed to attract attention without alarming. Then, she walked to a small hidden access shaft that led to the surface, emerging into the fading sunlight just as the group crested a nearby pile of rubble. They froze, weapons raised. Their faces, weathered and grim, were a mixture of shock and suspicion. Before them stood a child, no older than 10, small and unassuming, yet emanating an inexplicable aura of quiet authority. "Hello," Elara said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I am Elara. This is my workshop." The leader of the group, a woman with a severe but intelligent face, slowly lowered her rifle. "A workshop?" she scoffed, her eyes darting around the desolate landscape. "Child, there's nothing here but dust and rust." "Oh, but there is," Elara replied, a small confident smile playing on her lips. "Come, I'll show you." She led them back to the hidden entrance, reactivating the blast door with a practiced ease. As the colossal metal slab groaned open, revealing the dimly lit, humming cavern below, the group gasped. Their expressions transformed from suspicion to awe, their mouths hanging open as they beheld the nascent sections of the starship, massive and mysterious, stretching towards the unseen ceiling. What is this?" the leader whispered, her voice filled with a wonder Elara recognized immediately. "It's a ship," Elara explained, her voice gaining enthusiasm. "A starship. We're going to the stars." The woman, whose name Elara learned was Mara, was the leader of a nomadic group called the Dust Seekers, survivors who roamed the wastes, scavenging and trading. They had been drawn to the area by faint energy anomalies emanating from Genesis Prime, anomalies Elara's chip hadn't quite managed to mask. Mara and her people were initially wary, but Elara's unwavering conviction, combined with the undeniable evidence of the colossal machinery and the growing ship, slowly wore down their skepticism. Elara explained her mission: the dying Earth, the need for humanity to find a new home. She showed them holographic projections of the ship's design, explained the principles of warp drive and closed-loop ecosystems. "You're building this alone?" Mara asked, disbelief etched on her face. Elara nodded. "With the help of the facility in my chip, but I can't do it all. It's too big. I need help." Mara looked at her people, then back at the ship. Her eyes, once hardened by survival, now held a flicker of something long forgotten: hope. The Dust Seekers were pragmatic people. They understood the harsh reality of their world. But they also harbored ancient stories of a time when humanity reached for the heavens. And here, before them, was a child attempting to rekindle that dream. It wasn't an immediate consensus. Some were fearful, others suspicious. But Mara, seeing the potential, the sheer audacity of Elara's vision, made a decision. "We'll help you, child," she declared, her voice firm. "If this is humanity's last hope, then we will be a part of it." Thus began a new phase of construction. The Dust Seekers, though lacking technical expertise, brought invaluable skills. They were adept at scavenging, resourcefulness, and sheer manual labor. They set up a more permanent settlement near the facility, establishing a symbiotic relationship with Elara. They provided security, searched the ruins for specific components Elara needed, and helped with the heavy lifting that even the automated system struggled with. Elara in turn shared her knowledge. She taught them how to operate some of the simpler automated systems, how to differentiate between various metal alloys, how to maintain the solar arrays that now supplemented Genesis Prime's geothermal power. She became a mentor, a young leader guiding an unlikely crew towards an impossible dream. The ship, which Elara tentatively named the stellar Sidin, began to truly take form. Its primary hull, a sleek, tapering cylinder, grew hundreds of meters long, its surface a mosaic of newly forged, shimmering alloys. Within its vast internal spaces, the automated systems, guided by Elara, began to install the intricate networks of life support, the immense energy conduits, and the sophisticated navigation arrays. The sheer complexity of the stellar Sidin was staggering. It wasn't just a transport vessel, it was a self-sustaining ark, designed to carry not just a crew but an entire ecosystem, a fragment of Earth's dying biodiversity, meticulously preserved and replicated. There were vast hydroponic gardens, atmospheric recyclers, and even a small enclosed biodome intended to house a carefully selected collection of flora and fauna. Elara spent countless hours in the ship's evolving command center, a holographic interface projecting intricate schematics of every system. Her chip hummed constantly, feeding her data, guiding her decisions, helping her troubleshoot problems that would have stumped entire teams of ancient engineers. The stellar Sidin was a testament to her genius, a symphony of advanced technology and raw determination. But the challenges were immense. One day, a crucial energy conduit failed during a stress test, threatening a cascade failure across the entire primary power grid. Elara, working frantically with the automated repair drones, discovered a microfracture in a newly synthesized alloy. It was a flaw so minute, so subtle, that it defied all conventional diagnostics. Her chip pulsed with an urgent warning. Material integrity, compromise. Analysis suggests unforeseen resonance frequency interaction within warp field harmonics. It was a problem beyond current material science, a specific interaction that only arose at the extreme energy levels required for interstellar travel. Elara realized she couldn't just build stronger, she had to build smarter. She spent weeks in the Genesis Prime's material synthesis labs, poring over holographic projections of molecular structures, experimenting with quantum lattice formations, trying to design an alloy that could withstand the incredible stresses of warp speed. Mara and the Dust Seekers watched, bewildered but trusting, as Elara isolated herself, consumed by the problem. Finally, after sleepless nights and countless failed simulations, Elara had a breakthrough. She designed a new alloy, a complex crystalline structure interwoven with a network of embedded energy dampeners, capable of absorbing and dissipating the destructive resonance frequencies. It was a technological leap, a solution born from a blend of ancient knowledge and her own intuitive genius. The Genesis Prime facility hummed to life, synthesizing the new material, and the damaged conduit was replaced. The stellar Sidin was stronger, more resilient, a little more ready for the void. Word of the stellar Sidin and its child architect began to spread. The Dust Seekers, emboldened by their purpose, encountered other nomadic groups, other isolated communities. Some scoffed, dismissing it as a child's fantasy. Others were intrigued. A few, desperate for hope, made the arduous journey to the grand industrial complex. These new arrivals were diverse. Old scientists who had clung to fragmented knowledge, engineers who had repaired ancient machinery for survival, even artists who sought to capture the wonder of Elara's creation. They didn't always understand the advanced physics, but they understood the dream. The stellar Sidin became a beacon, drawing together the scattered fragments of humanity, uniting them under a single impossible goal. Elara found herself no longer a lone builder, but the heart of a burgeoning community. She delegated tasks, managed resources, and continued to innovate. The command center, once a solitary space, now buzzed with activity. Scientists meticulously catalogued Earth's remaining biodiversity, preparing for the biodome. Engineers worked on refining the ship's life support and propulsion systems. Mara, a natural leader, organized the logistics, ensuring the growing population had food and shelter, and maintained security. The ship grew, component by component, system by system. Its massive engines, intricate networks of glowing conduits, were installed in the aft section, promising unimaginable power. The bridge, a panoramic dome offering a glimpse of the stars even from within the cavern, began to take shape, bristling with holographic displays and control interfaces. The biodome, a vast, self-contained ecosystem, was meticulously constructed, ready to house the seeds of a new world. One evening, Elara stood on a temporary gantry, looking up at the colossal form of the Einsteller sedum. It filled the cavern, its sleek lines hinting at speed and grace, its sheer presence radiating power and promise. Thousands of humanity's fragmented hopes now rested on its hull, on her shoulders. The weight was immense, but so was the wonder. "It's magnificent, isn't it?" Mara said, stepping up beside her, her voice soft. Elara nodded, a profound sense of awe washing over her. "It's almost ready." The launch, once a distant horizon, was now a tangible event, a countdown ticking down in the hearts of everyone who had gathered beneath the earth. The Einsteller sedum was a testament to humanity's enduring spirit, a vessel forged from desperation and hope, guided by the curiosity and unwavering determination of a single child. But the cosmos, vast and unknown, still waited. And Elara knew that the real adventure, the true test of their hope, would only begin when the stellar seed finally broke free of Earth's gravity, carrying its precious cargo towards the endless, star-dusted night. There were still final checks, calibrations, and the daunting task of revealing their titanic project to the surface world. The journey had only just begun. The day of revelation dawned, not with a bang, but with a hushed digital whisper that spread across the globe. For generations, the Einsteller sedum had been a myth, a whispered conspiracy among the desperate, a secret held by the brightest minds in hidden enclaves. Now, holographic projections flickered to life in every city square, on every personal device, displaying the colossal, bioluminescent vessel nested within its underground cavern. It was a marvel of living metal and shimmering energy, a silent promise against the backdrop of Earth's slow decline. Elara, standing beside Director Aris in the primary control center, watched the world react. Gasps of disbelief turned into murmurs of awe, then a swelling chorus of hope. There was fear, too, fear of the unknown, fear of abandonment, but the sheer audacity, the luminous beauty of the Einsteller seed, seemed to quiet the loudest skeptics. Aris, his face etched with years of burden, and now a fragile relief, placed a hand on Elara's shoulder. "They see it, child, they see the dream." The final weeks were a blur of frenetic activity. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, their faces illuminated by the glow of data screens. Elara, now an unofficial ambassador of hope, guided by Aris, helped calibrate the astrogational systems, her intuitive understanding of the she-seed's bioneural network proving invaluable. She spoke to the world, her small voice amplified, explaining the delicate ecosystem within the vessel, the dormant genetic archives, the promise of a future beyond the withered skies of Earth. Her pure, unblemished hope cut through the lingering cynicism, making the impossible seem not just plausible, but inevitable. Then came the launch day. The world held its breath. Deep beneath the surface, the Einsteller sedum thrummed with contained power. Elara, secured in a specialized observation pod within the vessel's core, pressed her face against the reinforced viewport. Around her, the central chamber pulsed with soft organic light, a living heart beating in anticipation. Director Aris, having chosen to stay on Earth to oversee the launch from the surface, gave his final, tearful farewell over the comms. "Go, Elara, go, and find us a new dawn." A tremor ran through the vessel. A low, resonant hum vibrated up from the Earth. The Einsteller sedum was not launched by conventional rockets. It was coaxed upwards by a carefully choreographed ballet of anti-gravity fields and geothermal energy pulses, designed to minimize disruption to the already fragile planet. Slowly, majestically, the great vessel began its ascent. Through her viewport, Elara watched as the cavern walls blurred, then gave way to a dizzying rush of engineered tunnels. The G-forces were gentle, a soft push against her chest, a stark contrast to the violent shudders of ancient rocket launches. Higher and higher they climbed, until the darkness of the subterranean launch shaft gave way to a twilight sky. And then, with a silent, breathtaking grace, the Einsteller seed emerged. From orbit, A billion eyes watched as the colossal vessel, glowing faintly like a colossal bioluminescent pearl, pierced the bruised atmosphere. It was not a fiery explosion of thrust, but a slow, deliberate bloom against the dying twilight, a flower unfurling its petals towards the stars. Elara, tears blurring her vision, saw the curvature of Earth, a mottled marble of grey and brown, streaked with the ghostly remnants of once vibrant oceans. It was beautiful, heartbreaking, and so very small. "We are free," she whispered, her voice caught in her throat. The journey was long, a vast expanse of time measured in light years and the slow drift of stars. The I-stellar Sedin was a self-sustaining arc, its internal biospheres replicating the lost wonders of Earth, miniature forests, crystal-clear lakes, even carefully managed atmospheric zones. Elara, along with a small crew of caretakers, spent her days monitoring systems, tending to the genetic banks and, most importantly, learning. She delved into ancient Earth histories, studied the complex languages of forgotten cultures, and mastered the delicate art of stellar navigation. One cycle, as the I-stellar Sedin drifted through a nebula of shimmering cosmic dust, a warning flared across the central console. A cluster of rogue asteroids, previously undetected, was on a collision course. The automated defense systems, designed for smaller debris, were insufficient for the sheer mass of the incoming threat. Panic rippled through the small crew. But Elara, remembering Oris's unwavering faith in her curiosity, felt a familiar calm descend. She recalled a forgotten section of the I-Seed's original blueprints, a theoretical bioresonance shield that was deemed too energy-intensive for practical use. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble. "Activate bioresonance emitters, full power," she commanded, her voice ringing with newfound authority. The crew, their eyes wide with fear and respect, complied. A wave of shimmering energy rippled outwards from the I-stellar Seed, not a destructive blast, but a harmonic frequency that resonated with the very atomic structure of the asteroids. Instead of shattering them, it gently nudged them, altering their trajectories, guiding them like invisible shepherd dogs around the precious vessel. The cosmic ballet was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly successful. When the last asteroid had drifted harmlessly past, the crew looked at Elara with a profound, unspoken gratitude. She had not just saved them, she had shown them the deeper magic of their vessel, a magic born of harmony, not force. Years turned into decades, decades into a century. Elara, though her appearance had subtly shifted with the I-Seed's unique biological preservation systems, remained at its heart, a living conduit of its purpose. The children born aboard the I-stellar Sedin knew only the quiet hum of its engines and the endless tapestry of stars. They learned from Elara, from the archived wisdom of Earth, and from the growing understanding of the cosmos itself. Finally, after generations of silent flight, the I-stellar Sedin reached its destination. Not a planet, not a system, but a nexus of interdimensional energies. A shimmering tear in the fabric of space-time that pulsed with life-giving light. Ancient texts, rediscovered by Elara during the journey, had spoken of such a place, a cosmic wellspring capable of rejuvenating dying worlds. The I-stellar Sedin didn't land, it merged. Its living metal rippled and absorbed the vibrant energy of the wellspring. The vessel began to change, to grow, unfurling new structures, drawing in the raw cosmic energy. It wasn't just a seed anymore, it was a root, anchoring itself to a source of infinite vitality. From this cosmic anchor, the I-stellar Sedin did not simply send a message back to Earth. It began to project a subtle, sustained wave of restorative energy, guided by the wellspring's power and Elara's intricate understanding of Earth's biological signature, began its long journey back across the light years. It was not a sudden cure, but a gentle rain, a slow healing. Elara, now an elder, her eyes holding the wisdom of centuries and the light of distant stars, stood at the heart of the transformed I-stellar Sedin. It was no longer a ship, but a living, breathing nexus of creation, humming with the promise of renewal. She saw the children of the I-Seed, playing among glowing bioluminescent flora, their faces alight with curiosity, their laughter echoing in the vastness of space. They were the gardeners of a new dawn, tending not just to their own future, but to the distant, fragile hope of their ancestral home. Looking out into the infinite star-dusted night, Alara knew that the journey had truly just begun. The Earth still had a long way to heal, but the Stellar Seedin had planted the first, most precious seed of all. And somewhere, across the silent, star-strewn void, a tiny blue marble began to whisper with a new faint green. The universe was vast, but hope, once awakened, was even vaster.